This is part 2 of the third part of the World War II videos, the consequences. Where we pick up, Poland is, their government's underground. We have the Soviet Union supporting one side, we have the United States and Great Britain supporting the other, and there's a power struggle between the groups of which government's actually going to prevail. And unfortunately, the Soviet Union prevails and their influence stayed in Poland. Our Undersecretary of State, Joseph Grew, made a famous quote that said, "War was inevitable." It seemed that way with the tensions rising between the Soviets and the United States. And Winston Churchill gave a famous speech where he said that an iron curtain had been lifted between East and West, and that communist nations and capitalist nations will never coexist. They can't possibly do it. So this is where we get the famous term, the Iron Curtain. Our president at the time, Dwight D Eisenhower, establishes a policy of building a nuclear arms race that would dwarf any other in the world. He cut back spending on ships and planes and other types of military materials in order to build up nuclear arms. And basically he wanted to just scare everybody into submission. He didn't necessarily want to use them after he saw the devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In Greece, 1947, we see our first kind of skirmish with the Soviets. However, the United States and the Soviets never actually fought each other. Communist-supported forces were going up against Greece, and United States was supporting them with money and military supplies. So we never actually fought the Soviet Union in a combat war. We just supported one side against another. This was growing tensions between everyone, and it led to the development of a couple of organizations. We have NATO. NATO started out small. It has grown members now. There are 28, and basically they are a group of nations that come together to safeguard the freedoms of each other, mostly through political policy, but also military means if necessary. At the time it was created, the leader, Lord Ismay, had a famous quote that said, "To keep the Russians out, Americans in, and Germany down." That was the initial sentiment, but Germany has then since joined NATO, and that is no longer a stance that they take. The CIA in America, we know this as a Central Intelligence Agency. This is one of our foremost defenses against terrorism and other types of espionage that is tied in with the Cold War that we will be talking about. So they play a very important role in our defense. So while this is all happening, meanwhile, in China, we have a war going on. We have the KMT versus the Communist Chinese. We supported the KMT. The Soviet Union was supporting the Communist Chinese because they had military bases there from during World War II. So their influence was very strong. That's great. People's Republic of China, and it was established after the Communist Chinese won, and we lost all our influence in China. Also in Korea, we divided up North Korea and South Korea along the 38th parallel. This caused extreme tensions. You're going to be hearing about the 38th parallel all through high school. The Soviets supported the North, and they started building up some heavy arms there, while the United States supported the South. This leads into the Korean War, which we'll talk about in another unit when we get into the Cold War. But again, it wasn't actually the Soviets and U.S. fighting there. But we'll talk about that at a later date.